Hey, Kyle Wilson here. Welcome to the video. And in this one, we have Gary Vee talking about NFTs with Joe Pompliano in an interview. And he draws some super crazy parallels in the NFT space. Literally starts talking about comics, sports cards, superheroes, and literally almost talks about VeVe. And I just wanted to dive in, and he has some super great advice as well. So we're gonna go ahead and dissect that all in this video. Without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive in. All right, let's just get right into it. And before we do, make sure you hit that sub and bell if you're not already subbed to the channel. And if you want to further support my channel, please consider joining the YouTube membership for less than a cup of coffee. And I would very much appreciate it as it helps make videos like this. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and roll the clip.
Not only the social behavior that I have watched humans do from the history of time, and here's a new outlet at scale, and they're going to be able to use the social Web 2 mature world to flex their Web 3 assets. Oh, and by the way, there's a secondary non-trivial part, which is this isn't about communication and human behavior. This is about utility.
So I thought this clip was very interesting because basically Joe Pompliano asked him what basically made it click for him when he joined the NFT space. And he was talking about the social currency side of things. And I thought that was massive, especially when he's talked about the, Web 2 and how these big social media companies have grown so much and matured out. And literally the users on those platforms, have grown followings. You got the blue checks, and, people definitely like to flex on those platforms. And that has definitely been the case on Twitter, YouTube, Meta, and all those platforms coming as well that are adding those utilities to where users can literally flex their NFTs now. So with that being said, I thought that was huge, especially in the VeVe community. There's the social feed in-app, as well as we have massive amount of artists that are creating their showrooms and turning them into literal abstract pieces of art. And I think that is massive. When you're talking about the micro side of the community and you have creators and you have people excited like that, building these vaults that take hours and hours and hours out of their day to build something that is super special and sharing that with the community. I see it on my feed all day. Tom Bilyeu's even mentioned it on his channel. Actually, I think he was actually talking with Joe Pompliano as well. So that's kind of ironic. So anyways, I thought that was huge because those tick all the bells for me as well. And actually, VeVe is what got me back into the NFT space. And that was very important for me. But let's go ahead and roll the next clip.
People were responding and saying, hey, look, Gary has said 98% of these projects are going to go to zero, right? They're worthless. And maybe 2% are really successful and they end up being worth a lot. What is there? Is there like an established criteria in your mind of, hey, these are the things that I look for in a project to make it valuable of those 2%?
Yeah, the only thing I look for is the founder. It's the only thing I know how to look at. Meaning there'll be tons of things that are for Mark Zuckerberg, first-time founder, right? Like the Google guys, first-time founders. Sarah Blakely, first-time, like.
And you would have missed those, but you're okay with it.
Yeah.
So that's very important because what he's talking about is the very first pioneers in the space to do something big, right? And when you're looking like at a platform like Facebook back then, how it was so disruptive to the entire, everything, right? The whole internet, Google as well with their search engine optimization, their search engine, and how it brought relevant search results versus the old system. So when you look at platforms like that, it's super important to pay attention to those platforms. And like when I see a company like VeVe or other platforms that are out there right now, I mean, many others are popping up, but the very first NFT platform to bring massive brands and IPs to the NFT space is absolutely huge. And let's go ahead and continue.
What I worry about is that people don't understand the macro and the micro or the nuance. You could buy 17 projects of NFTs. All of those could go from you spending $900 a piece down to $12, and NFTs can still win as a genre. It's called sports cards. It's called comic books. You could have bought.
So real quick, he makes a super valid point because I own some NFTs that have definitely went to zero on OpenSea and minting them. And I'll tell you guys right now, some of my most valuable NFTs that have retained value pound for pound are my VeVe collectibles. And it's the reason why is no, not because you can't currently cash out. It's because they're the most iconic brands and IP in literally the world. And they already have built-in fan bases. And for me, that was huge to realize not only are they the very first, they're the very first to do this in the space. They have the very first iconic superheroes dropping as an NFT on their platform, and they already have built-in fan bases. So when you understand something like that, that is absolutely massive. Now, that is not to say these other founders of other projects aren't doing the same thing in the space and equally as important. I think, projects like, Basie, the Punks, the, Lazy Lions, Subducks, and Kaijus, and there's a few other blue chips out there that, doing good things in the space, and, the GRAILs, of course, being Basie and, Punks. But with that being said, VeVe has been such an easy, basically pick in the NFT space that I think people need to start paying attention to that in the wider macro of the NFT space.
$1 million worth of comic books in 1979 and not picked X-Men and Spider-Man and Superman and Batman. You might have just decided. I'll give you an example. I invested tens of thousands of dollars.
So he literally says the big three superheroes that are all on VeVe right now as NFTs. You have Batman, the very first Batman, the very first Superman, the very first Spider-Man as an NFT. That is massive. And he literally talks about how he should have invested into those types of IP in brands, right? Because the rest of everything may go to zero when he's talking about the macro NFT. And he literally draws this comparison again. So I thought that was huge. So let's go ahead and continue his example that he's using right here.
When I was 18 into Valiant and Image Comics, all of which have gone down to basically zero. But had I spent that same $10,000 on vintage X-Men and Spider-Man and Superman comics, 20 years later, I would have done well. I picked the wrong comics.
So he's talking about the wider NFT space, right? But really, yes, you can apply that to the macro NFT space, talking about independent artists, independent everything, right? Well, there's a chance and a big risk you're taking. So you better like that artist. You better like that NFT project in the macro, because that project may not make you any money. And you are very, investing into something that is speculative if your only goal is to make money. Now, like I said, and I've been trying to tell viewers for a long time, over a year now, that it's just common sense to invest into things that are the very first and super collectible, that have decades and decades of cartoons, movies, comics, memorabilia that have already built in fan bases. This is actually huge. So anyways, shout out to Gary Vee for saying this information and drawing a lot of comparisons and a lot of, sage level advice, honestly, in the space.
I lived that actual life. Actually, this is a really good one. I'm going to use this a little bit. I picked the wrong comics, but I was right about comics. I saw back in 1999 that nerd culture was going to become mainstream culture. I was right. I was buying toys and comics.
So you see that he's literally saying he bought the wrong comics, and you can be in the NFT space and buy the wrong NFTs and thinking you're doing, yourself a favor, but in all reality, you could be investing into something that's going to zero or may just not pan out, or that project may die, whatever the case may be, or that art is just genuinely good. It's just there's not a built-in fan base enough for that liquidity for you. So anyways, I think he draws some really good comparisons there. And it's funny to think that these comics and collectibles are already on VeVe, and they have already started to cement themselves in the NFT space. I've seen ETH Maxis, ETH Wells even start flipping and becoming VeVe degens. And I think that's important to notate as well.
But instead of buying a bunch of Toy Biz Invisible Women and Iceman figures for 80, 90, and $100 at shows, I should have been buying, Transformer Gen 1 in package. And that's what I think is happening right now with NFT land. People are buying the newest mint, the newest fad, the newest influencer pump. And what you're looking for is the 4 to 5 to 15 to 75 really good projects. I believe the only way you even have a prayer is to make a judgment call on the founder.
So that is huge. I mean, talking about, the founder, talking about, the next mint. I think that is huge right now in the NFT space. People are following what these, influencers are saying, what's best for them, what this hot project, the hype. But in all reality, like some of these projects are just you're gonna lose money in, and it's very important to, be careful with your funds. And he even talks about investing in funds that that are, basically you're okay with losing, right? You always want to do your due diligence. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice, of course, but you get what I'm saying. Invest in what you are willing to lose. And I think that is super wise advice. And once again, talking about the founders again, the founders of VeVe, David Yu, and this is what's funny is people that haven't researched into the founders of VeVe yet, they just judge what they see. Oh, these brands are centralized. I don't like it, but they completely ignore the founders, number one, and number two, the artists on VeVe. So VeVe has also opened up their platform to really well-known artists as well. And like I said, there's a digital renaissance going on in the space. And I've said this before that yes, brands get to earn the royalties, and you may, look at that as a cash grab, but literally this whole NFT space is bringing royalties to creators and artists where this wasn't possible before, where they can actually earn a living. And that is not a cash grab at all. And on VeVe, these artists has opted in for interoperability, which is another big factor as well. And I think in the long term, I think people are going to look at this completely different, but we are just here so early. It's so easy to judge in the space. But going back to the founders of VeVe, Al Khan, the head of licensing, Dan Crothers, David Yu, literally David Yu, like do your research on David Yu, one of the most iconic collectors in the world, probably. Brands like Marvel trust him. And we have some of the most exclusive collectibles on VeVe. And if you actually look at David's physical collection in real life, like this guy has been a master collector before NFTs. And now that there's NFTs, you can better believe he's going to go all in on the space. But anyways, I don't want to, harp on that too much, but let's go ahead and keep rolling the clip.
I believe the only way you even have a prayer is to make a judgment call on the founder.
Think about people that look at NFTs and say, I get it, but do I have the time to dig deep in Discord communities? Do I have the time to look at every project? Just walk me through your thoughts.
To that person, I say, look, it's so volatile and early now, but you can decide if you want that whether it's punks or apes or VeFriends or cool cats or doodles or world of women, it's all very early, but there is a subgroup that is slightly ahead of its peers. And if you really, really want to go there, you can set and forget. I'm fairly.
Now, he kind of says it right there. What subgroup is he talking about? I think we all know the subgroup he is talking about, all right? Where you can set and forget it. As a matter of fact, I have set and forget a lot of my collectibles on the VeVe app. And I know that those collectibles, those NFTs aren't going anywhere, right? They're not going to do anything. And some of these NFTs in the macro, the in perpetuity ones, the one that, some of these founders are going to inject their utilities for a lifetime. Those are also really great, NFTs to probably have, right? And so you mix those two together, I mean, you get a winning combination, right? It's hard to mess up in the NFT space when you're doing your due diligence. And like I said, these brands and NFTs on VeVe for me are definitely, like I said, and forget, because in the collectible space, these comics and these actual collectibles in the physical actually retain their value, and in most cases outperform stocks if you invest in the right physicals. And it's going to be exactly the same in the NFT space if you invest in the right ones, right? Now, that's all I got for this video. I just wanted to show all those clips. I thought that was super pertinent and basically directly correlated with VeVe. So smash this thumbs up on the video if you really enjoyed it. Destroy that like button, and sub and hit that bell so you don't miss any more videos like this. And I will see you guys in the next video at the blockchain. And as always, be like an NFT, be authentic, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.